Hey, this is Dr. Corey Glenn, and I'm going to be doing a demo of the Smart Denture Conversion Kit. This is a really nice option for really expediting your conversions during an all-on-X type surgery. So if you've ever done those, you probably know that oftentimes the conversion can be more time-consuming and more difficult than the actual surgery itself. And so this is just a product that's really going to expedite that and make your life easier. So let's go ahead and zoom in here, and I'm just going to show a couple of the parts and pieces. So the heart to the system is a tie base that is going to get embedded inside of the denture. And I kind of think of this as like picking up a locator. But obviously the difference with this is if you were to try and pick up a locator in a denture, and this is not going to be a resilient removable product, it's going to actually be something that can screw on and off. Well, in that case, you've got multiple pieces, you've got screw access holes, and it just doesn't really work. So the heart of the system is a tie base that is going to be picked up just as if you were doing a locator, but you have a small screw that's actually a two-piece screw. And so when you do this pickup and it locks on, at the end of the process, when you pop things up, the plastic portion that you actually screw in the screw with will separate from the metal portion. We'll be able to remove that little threaded piece and then drill from the underside through the bottom of the tie base to create the screw access hole. So you would be drilling up and out, which is also nice because here we don't have to have a prosthetic that we created these huge holes in and then have to do lots and lots of patchwork on. As you can see, this has no holes in it from the top side. All that you're going to do is go ahead and hollow out some wells. Again, think of it just like a locator type denture, only this would be in the mouth after you have placed the implants. And so the first step is going to be to place your tie bases on with the two-piece screw that has the little metal and plastic portion. Now there is a special screwdriver with this because since that is plastic, if you were to try and use a standard screwdriver, then you hypothetically could put enough torque on this that it's going to end up separating that before you really intend to. So with this, it kind of torques out and will just start spinning once you're really getting to the maximum amount that that can take. So if you're really doing this in the mouth, what I would suggest is go ahead and use some bite registration material, reline the inside, and just plop it on, take it off in a few seconds, and you're going to see the areas where these things need to be picked up in. Just take an acrylic burr and create some wells. Again, exactly what you would do with the locator type pickup. And you want to repeat that until you know that these things are sitting in there passively, your denture is completely seating, and you're not getting any metal show through. Once you've done that, now you're ready to go ahead and do the pickup. So I am working on models here, and one of the difficulties with that, you know, if I use a pickup acrylic, it's going to end up locking onto this model, and so you don't have to do this in the mouth. Although if you do have any undercuts like under the tie base, or if you have sutures, something like that that you don't want acrylic getting mixed up in, wouldn't be a bad idea to use some form of blockout, be it Teflon tape, wax, liquid dam material, anything like that, just to keep it from locking on. So in my case, I've just created these little Teflon pieces that already have a cutout so that I can hopefully avoid that lock on to the model. And there we go. Okay, so once again, we've got our wells, we've got this sitting passively, and the tie base has been placed on with the plastic screw, and now we're ready to go ahead and do the pickup. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just mixing up some acrylic, and this could be whatever form of acrylic you like. It could even be the Bisacryl materials that are dual cure, like Quick Up, or any of those will work. So just made some acrylic. I'm going to dump this into a Monoject syringe just to make it easier to manage. And now we can go ahead with our pickup. So we want to fill the wells inside of the denture. And don't get too crazy going overboard. Remember, you just basically want to get enough to bring it back to full contour. And you're still going to displace some of this with the tie base itself. And then it would be wise to also go ahead and add a bit around your housings or your tie bases, because you do want to make sure that these fully embed themselves. And these do have a couple of little undercuts in them that's going to help to embed this in the denture without getting or embed themselves within the denture so that they do stay in there. So now go ahead and seat your denture. If this is in the mouth, which is where this was typically going to happen, then you can go ahead and have the patient bite down. Just again, think of it 100% like a locator pickup. If you're using a material that gets hot during setup, you can cool this off. But now we're just going to give this a couple of minutes to fully set up. Okay, so this is now set up, and it's going to be somewhat difficult to remove because when you're doing this, just like when you're popping off a locator, you've got some retention, but that's mainly because it's the plastic piece of the screw that's got to separate. So I'm cheating here. I'm using a tool to kind of pop this up. And I can start feeling it loosen up just a bit now. And there we go. So as you notice here, our tie bases are still in, or I'm sorry, the multis are still in place. And if you look closely, you see a little spike sticking out. That is actually the threaded portion of the screw. Now those are going to have to come out. And you do have a special tool for removing that. So this little driver, which can be used inside of a dental handpiece, can now go on and it seats inside there and will remove that threaded portion. And there you can see the little portion. So I'm going to go ahead and get all 4 of those out. And these come out pretty easily because if you remember that screwdriver, which resists putting too much torque on these, has kept you from over tightening these. So now we're back to the baseline. This would just be like what the patient would have in the mouth. And then this would be your actual pickup. I'm going to go ahead and remove my Teflon tape. And I'm going to use a lab hand piece to go ahead and start removing some of this that is resisting me. And in a typical pickup, you're going to be now removing the flanges to the denture. So I'm going to go ahead and start cutting off flanges, and we'll turn back on here in just a moment when I've got the flanges removed. So as you can see, I just went and used a grinder, and all I've done so far is grind off the flanges, and there is still the little plastic piece of the cap inside of there. So you'll use one of the drills that comes with the kit. And what's beautiful about this is that, again, usually we have these giant passive holes with the cylinder sticking in the middle, and now we have to salt and pepper and patch this up. The beauty of this is that we're going to drill from the underside, and making your screw access holes is that easy. We're just going to end up with a tiny pinpoint hole exactly where the screw access needs to be. So there's much less lab work to do as far as trying to patch this up and get it to look halfway decent. I know many a person who will hire a lab technician to come to their office just for the conversion because this can be such a pain in the butt. Okay, so now all 4 screw access holes have been made. And if you want to countersink it, you do have additional drills for that purpose to give a little bit more room to your screw. And now that basically completes the pickup. So we would want to come back at this point and salt and pepper in these little pieces. In my case, I need to remove that Teflon tape. but you do want to always get rid of any kind of concavity on the underside of your immediate load restoration. So a bit of salt and pepper in just those low spots, and then this would be ready to deliver. And as you can see here, this is going to sit perfectly back onto the site. And now you would be ready to use the permanent screws that come with the kit. And it comes with an analog and everything kind of in one piece. It's a really smart packaging design. The permanent screw is on the underside of the analog. We can pull this out now and drop this through the screw access hole. And then repeat that process on all four. And you would have a very quick, relatively not so messy conversion process that doesn't require near the skill that you would typically have to have if you're patching this thing all back together. And this was more of a freehand approach. You could also do this in a guided approach. I know when we send out guides from our lab, we'll make the underside of the prosthesis be sitting 3 millimeters off the gingiva. But typically most doctors, if they're not using this, you still have to make a 5 to 6 millimeter hole. In this case, you could leave the chewing surface completely intact and just create the little wells ahead of time. So this would be even faster because you wouldn't be having to create the wells ahead of time. So great system, really can expedite your process of doing these full arch conversions.